Shalom Mishpacha. My name is Rabbi Moore. My wife Ravisa Summer. We are Mahi Ministries. Uh, this is going to be one of the most shocking videos I have ever done, and this is going to be a very difficult video for a lot of our viewers. But please pay attention and watch this video. Now, with the ending of Yom Kippur or Yom Kippur, which Yom meaning day, Kippur means covering, comes from kippah. This revelation has come and it needs to be told. With that being said, we start out this shocking revelation with beginning of Isaiah, Yeshayahu 5, Hamesh 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, and put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. So with that being said, let us go right to the video, right to the point. We're going to talk about the sacrifice of Abraham, of Issac, according to the Torah, in Bereshit 22, verse 2. But there's a lot of things that we need to be discussed. Before we get going, we'll do a quick prayer. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu malach haolam, aromincha Hashem, ki deltani. Baruch El Shaddai. Okay, we are ready. In Genesis 21:4, it says, and Abraham, circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as Elohim had commanded Abraham. The Almighty asked Abraham to take Ishmael as a sacrifice, not Isaac. How do we know this? This is the shocking video. I believe that it was not Isaac, but it was Ishmael. And this is how we know that this is true. The Almighty, El Shaddai, does not accept a circumcised korban, a circumcised sacrifice. We discussed this in our previous video as it pertains to Christianity. Therefore, we must also set the same balance for Judaism. We know that this would mean that Ishmael had to be below the age of 13 according to the Torah. He was circumcised at age 13. This would also mean that Isaac had not been born yet. From a simple deduction, we know that the time frame is off about the story of the korban, the sacrifice. Just by the simple reading of Bereshit, we get another clue that Ishmael is named also by the Almighty. We know that the firstling, the firstborn, is only accepted as a sacrifice. How do we know this? We go to Numbers 3:13. Read us Numbers 3:13, Summer.
Because all the firstborn are mine. For on the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel. Both man and beast, mine shall they be. I am the Lord.
Now, we also know that the firstborn, as being named, is Ishmael. Now, here's another interesting fact. We see in Genesis 4:4, and Abel, he also brought the firstling, which means the firstborn of his flock. And Hashem had respect unto Abel and his korban, his offering. But we have another clue. in a book of Hayashar, which is called the book of Jasher, which is basically the midrashic writings of some of the rabbis. I'm going to have my wife read Hayashar, verse chapter 1, verse 15, to give us a clue.
So we have Cain or Cain brought from the fruit of the ground, and Abel brought from the firstlings of his flock from the fat thereof, and Elohim turned and inclined to Abel and his offering, and a fire came down from the Hashem from heaven and consumed it.
Now keep going to Jasher 1:16, Hayashar 1:16 to get the clue.
And unto Cain and his offering Adonai did not turn, and he did not incline to it, for he had brought from the inferior fruit of the ground before the Lord. And Cain was jealous against his brother Abel on account of this, and he sought a pretext to slay him.
So we see a variant here. Hayashar saying Hashem did not accept, Elohim did not accept the sacrifice
kitavo.
of Cain.
Kitavo is the first
But
fruit.
the Masoretic text says he accepted it, but he wasn't happy with it. Now, we can also go from there to Exodus chapter 13, verse 12. I'll have Summer read it for us.
Thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all that openeth the matrix, and every firstling that cometh of a beast which thou hast, the male shall be for Hashem. Now, could we parallel that and compare the coming out of the matrix with the Samaritan text? Somebody needs to look that up and compare Exodus 13:12, Shemot 13:12 of the Samaritan Torah. Because we're always seeing maternal. I question the maternal opening of the matrix. If our last revelation that we found in Genesis through Genesis Apocryphon says that the inheritance will go unto the seed that comes forth from your loins, that would be Abraham's descendant.
Now, we don't need to go that far because remember in our previous video in Genesis Apocryphon, interesting enough, we see where the last words are from your loins,
Yes.
from your seed, Abraham, shall the
inheritance
be. Okay, now we can also see that being repeated, what I just mentioned in Exodus 13:12, in Nehemiah 10:36. Read it for us.
And this is in the latter part of the Tanakh. Also, the firstborn of our sons and of our cattle, as it is written in the law, and the firstlings of our herds and of our flocks to bring to the house of our Elohim, and to the priests that minister in the house of our Elohim.
Now from there, we're going to go here to Leviticus 27:26. Once again, always the firstborn. Okay? We're going to go to Exodus 13:2. Listen to these words. Sanctify unto me, says Hashem, all the firstborn. Okay? Now, we're going to go to Bereshit 22, Genesis 22:6. Read that for us, Summer.
And Ibrahim took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Issac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together.
Keep reading. And Genesis 22:5 now.
And Ibrahim said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you.
Interesting enough, it's an opportunity here for the name of Issac to be mentioned. But we see in Bereshit 22:5, it says lad. Why is that important? Because in Bereshit 22:6, all this weight is being put on the lad. Now, what is the definition of lad, Summer?
Boy.
A boy is carrying a long road to go to the sacrifice where Hashem told Abraham to do, with all this wood and things needed on his back.
Isaac wouldn't have been old enough, based on the linear perspective.
Read this for us, honey.
In ancient times, when you got married at age 12, a lad, meaning boy, would have been more prepared to carry the wood a long way. Ishmael, who is 12, or Isaac the lad.
Now,
and actually, we just reread the portion of saying that he was actually 14, that Ishmael was 14.
Right.
By the time that Isaac was born, he was 14. So he had already had his circumcision at 13.
And then it goes into
And then he goes into 14.
Now, keep reading. I wrote this.
And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old, and when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
Right here. And I believe.
I believe that the Almighty told Ibrahim, you don't need to sacrifice. Instead, I will give you the circumcision. So circumcision
Now,
is for the son.
let me explain this. We have to believe that Ishak was not circumcised. Because if Ishak was circumcised, it would have been a defiled sacrifice.
He would have had a blemish.
So he would have a blemish. So now, we know that Ishmael is not circumcised till he's 13. So that had to be Ishmael. So Ishmael is not circumcised. Okay?
He's 12. He's
He's
not
not
circumcised.
circumcised. Hashem is saying, don't worry about this sacrifice. I'm going to give you the circumcision. That's when Abraham circumcises Ishmael. He becomes the first in the household to be circumcised. He's the firstborn.
And it's
But
also a lesson for Abraham to know that Hashem is not a Hashem that would want to have the blood of us in death.
But Abraham knew this already, and that's what I'm getting at. Let's go to Genesis 17:20. Read it for us.
And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
How many tribes are there in Israel, Summer?
12.
Do we see this prophecy being told of Ishak about the 12 tribes?
We never talk about Ishmael when it comes to 12. Nobody ever talks about Ishmael.
But in that specific prophecy, Isaac is not mentioned as having 12 coming from his loins. Now,
17:20.
Jacob,
and as
yes.
for Ishmael,
Isaac,
I have
no.
heard thee. I blessed him and will make him fruitful. The clue is how many tribes are there? Well, the answer is 12. And how come the Almighty did not say that 12 messiahs or tribes will come out of Ishak?
Don't forget, according to many rabbis, even Rabbi Tovia himself, the word prince means Messiah, right? So if that's the case, then there's 12 messiahs coming.
So why would he promise Abraham a blessing, but then wait until Israel?
But there is more. Let's go to Genesis 21:17. Read it for us.
Elohim heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of Elohim called up to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for Elohim hath heard the voice of the lad where he is.
Now, who is this lad? This is not Ishak. This lad is Ishmael. This lad is Ishmael. Immediately, when they are thirsty, starving, they need water, Elohim hears the voice of Ishmael. He hears the voice of Ishmael. Also, we see who taught Ishmael in the last days of his life. In Bereshit 21:20, Elohim was with the lad, and Ishmael grew and dwelt in the wilderness. You won't find the word Ishmael, you'll find the word lad in the Masoretic text. Now, let us see what King David says about the righteous of Hashem and hearing them.
Psalm 34:15 says, The eyes of Hashem are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. Who cried? Ishmael. Who heard him? Elohim.
Keep going, Summer. Read this for us.
He would have been known that because Ibrahim had to sacrifice. Finally, we have the last clue. We see Abraham always negotiating with the Almighty about his family, but in this case, he didn't even mean that Ishmael was not circumcised in the time when he was ready to offer him as a sacrifice.
No. Do you remember when Abraham was going back and forth with Hashem? What if there's 10? What if there's one righteous? What if there's 20 righteous? Remember?
There's no negotiation. He would have known that because Abraham had to sacrifice before the sheep, he knew the ways of...
Because he had sacrificed before. He had never sacrificed a circumcised sacrifice before. Okay? So now we see what that clue is. Genesis 22:8. Read it for us.
And Ibrahim said, My son Elohim will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering, so they went before both of them together.
And Abraham told Ishmael, My son, don't worry. I know you're not circumcised. I know Hashem is not going to, I know that Hashem is not going to take you as a sacrifice because Hashem doesn't accept a human sacrifice. Other gods do. He knew that already. That's why he said, don't worry. Elohim will provide this is an animal, a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both them together. Now, here's the interesting fact. That lamb that's stuck in the thorns is not circumcised. That lamb is untouched. That's why Hashem takes that. So
he
that means
already knew. Ibrahim already knew.
So if they're saying it's Ishak, if the Masoretic text is saying Ishak, they're playing something. They're playing games because Ishak was circumcised on the 8th day. It's impossible that Hashem would take Ishak up there as a sacrifice. What is going on?
Well, they're trying to look at infanticide, which is very closely related to a Christian messianic claim. So I think that they're playing upon that messianic claim of Christianity.
Something stinks. Something stinks. And I don't know why none of the rabbis have ever thought about this all through the ages.
They wouldn't want to because it would take away
because
their
they're
attitude.
not looking right.
We're running short on time, but I do want to clarify something so that if anyone ever has any questions, Rabbi Moore is Jewish. Okay, so he has Ashkenazi, he has Mizrahi, Iraqi, Iranian, Eastern European Jewry within his veins. But this does not negate. It does not negate the fact that he's a Semite, born of the house of Shem, and revelations come to the sons of Abraham, and he said that he would be blessed. You just when you have the text in front of you, you can only deduce.
I know we're going to get a lot of hate
flack
comments on this, but the fact is, if Judaism wants to say that Hashem does not accept a circumcised man as a sacrifice, then you better be prepared to say that Ishak could not be accepted as a sacrifice because he was circumcised on the 8th day. Simple as that. So the only conclusion is,
and he couldn't have carried wood.
So the only conclusion is
deduction.
The lad is Ishmael. Simple. The laws of Hashem are perfect. He does not change his mind. He says, I am Hashem. I do not change. I do not change my mind.
And very quickly, there was things that Josiah found out that they had been switching.
Right.
Who was going to be the Kohen? Who was going to be the Kohen? They switched it out. Why wouldn't they switch it out today, thousands of years later?
Shalom.